Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, and welcome to the Thursday Night Thunderdome, the place where all the legal stories we didn't have time for come in a battle royale style to figure out which story is best story, because too many things are happening. The Supreme Court is Supreme Courting, district courts are district courting. Things are always happening. Too much stuff. Too much stuff. I guess it helps keep the lawyers employed, but makes my job a little bit difficult. We begin with new charges against Corey Richens, a children's book author who wrote a book about killing her husband. Basically, it's a confession. It's basically a if I did it, sort of. And the authorities couldn't help taking notice. Like, this book looks a little suspicious to us. This book looks a little sus to us. Maybe it's more of a confessional. And so she's on trial for that already. And now we have new and exciting charges, because this may not have been our first try to kill him. So maybe we can charge him for other attempts in the past. How fun and exciting. How fun and exciting. So we got new and exciting charges. The Utah woman who authorities say fatally poisoned her husband, then published a children's book about the grief. So, now faces another attempted murder charge for allegedly drugging him weeks earlier on Valentine's Day. It's just mean. Corey Richens, 33, is accused of killing her husband with a lethal dose of fentanyl in her home near Park City, Utah. New charging documents filed Monday, with prosecutors alleged this was not her first attempt. Well, at first you don't succeed, I guess. Try again. She really wanted to write that book, man. And she heard that authors should write things they know about. Not sure that was what they meant by the phrase. The new and exciting charges detail the perilous months preceding Eric Richens' death, painting a pictures of a paranoid man, although strictly speaking, he's not paranoid, because they really are out to get you. So it's basically psychological torture, I guess. Walking on eggshells around his wife as she made secret financial arrangements and brought illicit drugs that were later found in his system. Prosecutors have said that Corey Richens, who's being held without bail on the murder, may have tried to poison her husband then months earlier before the death, but they didn't file charges until, earlier this week. So they had suspected this. They had suspected this possibility, and like good investigators have investigated and believe they have enough evidence now to bring the charges. Fun. The chilling case of a once beloved author accused of profiting over her own violent crimes has captivated the true crime enthusiast audience. Yeah. I mean, again, there's better ways to get publicity, it seems to me. There's better ways to get that audience. Hey, I'm going to kill you. How am I going to do it book? In the years since she was arrested for her husband's murders, she has self-published Are You With Me, an illustrated storybook about a father with angel wings watching over his son as he passed away. She may be insane. At least a little bit. Once lauded as a heartwarming must-read for any child who has lost a loved one, the book has become a powerful tool for the prosecutors. Is it still available on Amazon? Can we buy it? And should we read it on stream? I mean, who's going to sue me at this point for copyright infringement? I mean, really. The book has become a powerful tool for prosecutors arguing that Corey Richens carried out a calculated murder plot and attempted cover-up. The mother of three, repeatedly called her husband's death unexpected while promoting her book, and was commended by many for helping her sons and other young children process the death of a parent. Her attorney, Sky over here, did not immediately respond to requests for comments. Lazo has argued in earlier hearings the evidence against her client is dubious and circumstantial. Well, I mean, yes, it's circumstantial. But, yeah. One bite of his favorite sandwich, left with a note in front of his truck on Valentine's Day, made Eric, 39, break out in hives and blackouts, according to a new document. His wife had brought the sandwich from a local diner in the city the same week and also purchased several dozen fentanyl pills, according to witness statements and deleted text messages that were then recovered by the police. The state's star witness, a housekeeper who claims to have sold her the drugs, told law enforcement that she gave Corey Richens the pills a couple days before Valentine's Day. Later that month, Richens allegedly told the housekeeper the pills she provided were not strong enough and asked her to procure stronger fentanyl according to the charging documents. Damn. In witness testimony, two friends of Eric Richens recounted phone conversations from the day. Prosecutors are now saying he was first poisoned by his wife of 9 years. After injecting himself with his son's EpiPen and chugging a bottle of Benadryl, he woke up from a deep sleep and told his friend, "I think my wife tried to poison me." His friends say he noticed fear in the voice as Richens, who had no known allergies, told them he felt like he was going to die and his wife might be to blame. Opioids, including fentanyl, can cause severe allergic reactions, including hives. Man, just when you think there's no other way the opiates can get you, wouldn't you know it, some people are also allergic. That's just rough, man. That's just rough. A month later, Corey Richens called 911 in the middle of the night to report she had found her husband cold to the touch at the foot of their bed. He was pronounced dead, and a medical examiner later found 5 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system. Well, la-di-da, that's a kind of a clue. Hey, housekeeper, can you sell me fentanyl? Okay. Hey, husband's dead of fentanyl. I wonder if the two are related. 1 or 2 pills might be accidental. 20 or 5 times the dose is not accidental. That's someone that's someone who wants Eric dead, said the Summit County prosecutor. She alleges that Richens slipped the synthetic opioid in a Moscow Mule. The Moscow Mule does not include fentanyl as one of the ingredients. She made for her husband amid marital disputes and fight over a multi-million-dollar mansion she purchased as an investment. Years before her husband's death, Corey Richens opened numerous life insurance policies on Eric without his knowledge, with benefits totaling $2 million. Well, multiple life insurance policies, that seems maybe a little bit suspicious. Corey Richens was also charged Monday with mortgage fraud and insurance fraud for allegedly forging loan applications and fraudulently claiming the insurance benefits after death. Prosecutors argue she was in financial distress when her husband died and mistakenly believed she would inherit his estate under the terms of the prenup. Newly released documents indicate she had a negative bank balance, owed lenders more than $1.8 million, and was being sued by a creditor. That's bad, man. That's a lot of debt. $1.8 million? What were you buying? Shop till you drop was not meant to be taken literally. Shop till he drops from the fentanyl you give him also was not a suggestion. What are you buying? Charging documents indicate Eric Richens met with a divorce lawyer and estate partner in 2020, a month after he discovered his wife made some major financial decisions without his knowledge. The couple's prenup agreement only allowed Corey to profit off her husband's successful stonemasonry business if he died while they were still married. Utah law, of course, prohibits anyone from profiting off another person's murder. So, yeah. So, things are looking negative for Miss Richens out there. Seems like we have motive, means, and opportunity, and we gave it another try once before. Tony says your go-to is the last word. Well, Tony, if she makes your last word, it will be a last word indeed. Holy shit. All right, let's see what else we got going on today in the news. Turning to my friend and yours, Mr. Alex Murdaugh. Well, I'll just note that his plea deal is in jeopardy because his plea deal with the feds included, telling the truth, And to verify that, his plea deal also said that he would take a lie detector and that if he didn't pass, the deal is off, which apparently he didn't pass. So now they just have all his admissions with no deal. That sucks. Right? So they can still use all the statements against him from the deal against him in trial without a deal. So that sucks. So things are not looking good for him with the feds. All right. In Strippers Are People 2 news, a stripper bill of rights has been signed into law in Washington state. This amuses me. It amuses me more than it rationally should. You know, I mean, how do you break from your chains when you're a stripper? Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains, or really all of your clothing, because you're a stripper. Legislation in Washington state known as the Stripper Bill of Rights, which advocates say includes comprehensive statewide protection in the nation, was signed into law on Monday. Strippers are workers, and they should be given the same rights and protections as any other labor force, said the bill sponsor. If they're employed at a legal establishment in Washington, they deserve the same safeguards that every worker is entitled to, including protection from exploitation, trafficking, and abuse. The new law requires training for employees in establishments to prevent sexual harassment. How? How in principle? I mean, what does sexual harassment look like at a strip club? I mean, it's obviously, assuming that there is such a thing, it's obviously going to be different than it would be, you know, at a bank. But what does sexual harassment look like at a strip club? Can you bring a hostile work environment because the customers are sexually harassing you? What does that even look like? I don't even know how in principle you do that. So we're going to have training to prevent sexual harassment. If the training is available, I'll take the training because I'm way too curious how that's supposed to work. Identify and report human trafficking. De-escalate conflict and provide first aid. It also mandates security workers on site, keypad codes on dressing rooms, and panic buttons in places where entertainers may be alone with customers. Okay. Most dancers in the state are independent contractors who are paid by the customer and then must pay the club fees every shift. The new law limits fees owners that they can charge, capping them at $150 or 30% of the amount the dancers make during their shift, whichever is less. It also prohibits late fees and other charges related to unpaid balances. Well, they just won't let you work, I assume. Unconsensual contact? Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's that simple. Yeah, maybe it's that simple. Yeah, maybe it's that simple. Somehow I doubt it's that simple, but maybe. The state's Department of Labor and Industries will draft the new rules and guidelines for making the change to workplace safety standards in the law next year. I would love to read these rules and guidelines. That sounds interesting. The new law also makes it possible for adult entertainment clubs to obtain liquor licenses. Oh, they weren't allowed to before? That's lame. Strippers Are Workers, a dance-led organization in the state, advocate for the new regulations and alcohol sales. So we want our workers to be safer, and to do that, let's add liquor to the mix. I'm sensing there might be some mixed motives. The organization's efforts began in response to a widening regulation gap for people performing at 11 adult entertainment clubs across the state. There are only 11 in the entire state? In the entire state of Washington? There's only 11 strip clubs in the entire state of Washington? That seems like not that very many, man. Yeah. But there are also concerns that adding the protections without adding revenue from alcohol sales could lead some clubs to close. We don't want clubs to shut down now or in the future because that will put everyone out of work and put them at even risk or more dire situations. They're all in Oregon, Portland. There's only 11 in the entire state, and they're all in Oregon. They're all in Portland. Oh, that's amazing. State Liquor and Cannabis Board spokesperson told the New York News Tribune it could take over a year to get the liquor license in process for the club. Only one other state has added protections for adult entertainers. Apparently, the great state of Illinois started requiring adult entertainment establishments to have a written sexual harassment policy. There have also been other efforts, including at bar in Los Angeles and a strip club in Portland, where dancers voted to unionize. Nice. And the Nevada Supreme Court in 2014 ruled that dancers at one Las Vegas club are employees, which entitled to minimum wage, which they test for whether or not you're an employee or a contractor. We've sort of discussed. It depends on the state. It's usually like a 13-part test. But, you know, if you're on one side of the line versus the other, so, yeah, depending on what they're doing, they might be employees, so fair enough. It is crucial we confront the stigma surrounding adult entertainment and recognize the humanity of those involved in the industry, this person said. Yeah. Portland has more strip clubs than any other city in the country? Portland, Oregon? Okay. Neat. Only 11 strip clubs in the entire state of Washington, though. That's amazing. You're known for it? I'll go. I'll dance. I'm private dancer. Dancer for money. Do what you want me to do. That'll be good. For an Uncivil Law meetup, we'll meet up at a strip club and your entertainment is Uncivil Law. Eh? Eh? You guys want to see a little preview? I'm in good spirits. I'm in good spirits. I could get some beef fish pasties. Awesome. You don't know if I have the legs to pull it off? Believe in me. Believe in me. All right, let's discuss New York City and congestion charging, an issue that's been percolating for quite a long time. All right, New York City has been talking about congestion plan pricing, which would make people pay to drive in New York City. The city of London has such a thing, and I think other cities do, but this would be the first for the United States. So if you drive into New York, you have to pay a toll, like $15, like every day. So it gets expensive pretty fast, which I suppose is the point, to try to encourage people not to do that. But with the increasing murders on the New York subway, I'm curious how I'm supposed to get to work. But yeah. The Metropolitan Transport Authority Board on Wednesday approved congestion pricing fees. Emotions ran high at the board meeting. A mix of people plead for mercy in the form of exemptions and lower fees, while others said after years of fighting, the time had finally come to enact the plan. After a 5-year debate, an approval process has sometime moved with fits and starts, the MTA board approved the toll that drivers will pay to enter Manhattan's central business districts below 60th Street. The fee structure apparently is as follows. Cars will pay $15 to enter Manhattan at 51st Street and below during the day and $3.75 at night. Motorcycles will pay $7.50 during the day and $1.75 at night. Trucks will pay between $24 and $36 during the day and $69 at night. And taxi drivers will see a $1.25 surcharge, while Uber and Lyft drivers will pay $2.50. So those Uber rides are going to get a little bit more expensive. Several groups of drivers will be exempt, the majority of which are governmental workers. Well, what a surprise there. Those exemptions will be made for any bus company with the Department of Education contract, including public, private, and charter school buses. That's nice. About half the city's fleet of 26,000 vehicles are also exempt, and private commuter buses. However, public employees who drive private car to work, like first responders and teachers, have been left off the exemption work list. So if you are a teacher or first responder and have to drive into the city, you now owe them an additional $15 every day. So your salary is getting more and more annoying. It was difficult right up to the very end. The MTA police barricades ringed the building. The place was crawling with cops. 2 sets of demonstrators got inside the boardroom. Just before the final vote, yellow cab drivers who don't want to pay their passengers to pay an extra fee confronted the board saying, exempt the yellow cabs now. But with the MTA desperate to fill the $1 billion per year congestion pricing will bring in for fixing ailing transit, the vote was overwhelming in favor. So part of the justification for this is we can use this money to fix the subway system. Okay, where will the money really go, though? Probably not that. Congestion pricing was signed into law by the governor, who recently did an about-face saying now isn't the time to make it more difficult for drivers to come into New York City, because people might want to leave New York City because suddenly it's not, very economical to be there. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to the thing. Some fear the trains will become even more crowded and more stabby. Listen, I can't get a seat on the train in the mornings because there are people laying across the benches, so we already have that problem. MTA officials hope to implement the plan in June and say most of the infrastructure's already been installed, but rollout could be delayed because of several ongoing lawsuits. They didn't study the plan in the Lower East Side. The FDR drive will be exempt from the tax, so people that are toll shopping instead of driving through, say, First Avenue, will end up using FDR, which will continue to pollute the area. New Jersey's governor made it clear he's still hoping to put the kibosh on it. This is far from over and will continue to fight this blatant cash grab. The MTA actions are further proof that they're determined to violate the law in order to balance their budgets, said the New Jersey governor. So that is what's happening then, and it will be interesting to see if this actually goes into place and what actually happens. Whatever they think is going to happen, it will not happen. I'm pretty sure about that, though. But apparently, if you're a teacher now and you want to drive into the city, you have to pay $15 every day. And you can take a subway, but you can't get a ride, and they're more stabby. So. In strange story out of Japan, a man was fired for taking a free detergent sample, won his battle in court. What a strange story. As chronicled in Japan's Asahi Simnum newspaper, the saga began just before the opening hours at a shopping mall in Nagato Prefect. On his way to work, an unidentified bank branch assistant manager happened to spot a nearby store offering a modest giveaway: free packs of laundry detergent displayed in the front of the store to lure customers. Noting the help yourself sign, he did, and then went to his job. So he's on his way to work at the bank. He's passing by another shop, and there's like a thing of detergent that says help yourself, and he's like, okay. Apparently the store had a problem with this. After checking to make sure the security cameras had captured the suds lifter red-handed, an employee quickly informed the bank that since the soap grab had taken place before business hours, it amounted to theft. There's a sign saying "Take one." The bank's executive, man's boss, and even the bank area manager offered multiple apologies. All bank employees were ordered to alter their commute routes to avoid walking in front of the cell phone store. No small feat given the store's location opposite the bank branch. But the store manager was not to be placated, despite the fact that promotional giveaways had been provided for free by the manufacturer and likely worth less than $2 each. So the store owner wasn't even out any money. He wasn't out any money. The laundry detergent had been provided by the manufacturer for free in order to promote the laundry detergent. So, you know, it literally is no skin off the store. They didn't pay for it in the first place. The store, for some reason, demanded that the bank employee be transferred to another branch. What the hell is going on in Japan? Worried about the possible fallout, the bank ended up firing the man, who then sued his employer on grounds of unfair dismissal. Since the detergent was outside the taking, he argued, grabbing the packet could not be considered larceny, and besides, as a potential customer, he's entitled to one. I mean, it just literally said take one. So I'm not sure what we're even arguing about here. For its part, the bank argued that given the gravity of his job handling assets, the man's decision to pocket the soap fell outside the bands of acceptable behavior. There's literally a sign saying take one. It is also noted the man in question had a history of scooping up freebies from the shop. But they're free. What am I missing? He has a history of taking free things. In the March 8th verdict, the Tokyo District Court ruled that while such an act could be construed as theft, how could it be construed as theft? Under what possible interpretation of bullshit law could this be considered theft? And in specific instances could justify dismissal. Such a harsh penalty was unwarranted in this case. The fact the man was technically still off duty when the malfeasance occurred, the court said, obliviated the need for a penalty by the bank. What the hell are they talking about in Japan? What bullshit system of law do you got going on in Japan? What bullshit is this? Maybe it's just a badly translated story. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they're not telling me something, because it's like, this doesn't make sense. Noting the trivial value of the item, the man's repeated display of remorse, it ordered the bank to give the man's job back. The time and money invested by this case could have bought thousands of packets of detergents, the newspaper wrote. Japanese laws are very different. I mean, I understand they're not based on English common law, but sign that says take one, like, what Japanese law is that? I mean, you know, that this could be considered theft. I mean, I never claimed to be an expert on the laws of Japan, but like, that just strikes me as odd. Japan has no concept of fair use in its intellectual property. There's your random Japanese law fact for the day. Fun fact, Japanese does not have a concept of fair use in copyright law. Okay. I guess don't go to Japan anytime soon. Damn. In my daughter is dating the wrong sort news, a pastor has been accused of hiring a hitman to kill his daughter's boyfriend. I mean, she may have strayed from the flock, but this might be a little bit much. I'm not saying you have to like your daughter's boyfriend. I'm not even saying that you can't try to interfere, but maybe the hitman is a step much. Detectives in California arrested a pastor they say organized a murder for hire plot that targeted the daughter's boyfriend. Samuel Pasillas, 47, is a pastor for a Spanish-speaking church in Victorville. He's accused of hiring a man to kill the person dating his daughter. He was booked on several charges, including solicitation and attempted murder, and being held on $1 million bail. He apparently paid $40,000 for this shooting to occur. Here's a picture of a very grumpy father. Police served warrants on the house in Victorville, Long Beach, and Linwood. Apparently he has 3 homes as a pastor, nice touch. Leading to the arrest of him and the 55-year-old Juan Manuel Cerebros, who police say is one of the men that he allegedly hired. Cerebros was booked on several charges, including attempted murder, and held on $1 million bail. Investigators say the crime unfolded October 21st, 2023, when a car was riddled with bullets, and the man inside was in fact shot several times. The victim told police a car pulled up next to him at the stop sign, and gunfire erupted from it. Police say one of the rounds struck the victim's cell phone, so they tried. They tried to do a drive-by assassination, but it didn't work. So he's not able to call for help because it struck his cell phone. He did the next best thing and drove himself to the hospital. Nice. Evidence was gathered at the scene, and the robbery homicide detectives started a follow-up investigation during which they found evidence that Pasillas allegedly organized the shooting as part of the murder for hire plot. Police say Pasillas met with the man he hired and allegedly provided them with information about the victim, including his location the night of the shooting. There's nothing about the victim that will make anyone want to shoot him or have him shot. He's a good church-going young man. Well, apparently he's trying to corrupt. He's trying to corrupt the virtue of the daughter. I'm guessing the daughter may not necessarily look at this favorably, if I had to guess. A motive for the shooting remains unclear, but the investigators say that this may be an extension of the pastor's religious belief where he was overprotective of his daughter. Meanwhile, the victim is out of the hospital and said to be recovering. So, yeah. Don't do the attempted murder because the wrong guy is dating your daughter. Or if you do, it would be really helpful if you had a pig farm or something. That'd be good. Or you lived in the swamps of the bayou, maybe. In Florida man news, a person really wants some beef jerky and pistachios. Now, I understand. I like beef jerky and I like pistachios. But normally I pay for those things when I want them. But Mr. Florida Man is not about that life. The Florida man's hankering for beef jerky and pistachio was so strong, He swiped more than $100 of the treats from the Polk County convenience store without paying. Surveillance footage shows Antonoff Kermalfuff of Windermere walking into a Love's Trop Stock and stopping to look at a sign depicting a deputy patrol car that read, "Free ride if you shoplift from the store." Cute. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Karmeloff continued walking inside the store, grabbing beef jerky and pistachio nuts, and strolled out. Judge said, "Nuts for a nut, right?" Judge said that when employees who saw him steal the items wanted to stop him, he ran into his box truck. I bet Lowe's was not happy this morning. They were even less happy when he did this theft because, there was nobody to drive to Lowe's this morning because he got that free ride we advertised right at the front door from the sheriff's office. $100 worth of pistachios and beef jerky is a decent amount. I mean, jerky can get a bit expensive, especially if it's good, but, still. He was taken to jail, and Love's got its beef jerky back, but not clear if they got the pistachios back. He's been charged with first-degree petty theft. Beef jerky can be very expensive, I know. All right, in legal news, a thing that has happened before and in different jurisdictions, so not the first time this kind of story has happened. A $500,000 house was built on the wrong lot in Hawaii. That's rough, man. That's rough. You built the house, but you built it in the wrong place. A legal fight, of course, is now unfolding over the mix-up. A woman who purchased a vacant lot was surprised to find out a house was built on the property by mistake. She's now mirrored in legal wrangling over the mix-up. Annaline Reynolds purchased a 1-acre lot in Hawaii's Paradise Park, a subdivision of the Big Island's Puna district, in 2018 at a county tax auction. She was in California during the pandemic waiting for the right time to use it when she got a call last year from a real estate broker who informed her he had sold the house on her property. Local developer Canal Development Partnership hired PJ's Construction to build about a dozen houses on the properties the developer bought, but the company built one on her lot. Reynolds, along with the construction company, the architect, and others, are now being sued by the developer. There's a lot of fingers being pointed between the developer and the contractor and some of the subs. Reynolds rejected the development's offer for a neighboring lot of equal size or value, so they offered her a different lot. But it's like, we'll give you another empty lot for free, but she turned them down. And property, real property, land, is one of those things that is specific performance. It's difficult to get specific performance in contracts. Specific performance is where I require you to do the thing. It's difficult to get specific performance. So we have a contract with each other. I give you money, you give me car. I don't know, whatever it is, right? And you breach. And I'm like, what I really want is the car. That's specific performance, right? That's the specific thing I bargained for. And that's pretty difficult to get most of the time. But land is a classic exception, because land is thought to be non-fungible. No two pieces of land are exactly the same. So you might say, well, this piece of land is just the same as another piece of land in a subdivision, but as far as the law is concerned, no, it's not. The land is different. So you can't just substitute one for the other. It's like, yeah, you lost a piece of land. Here's another piece of land that's just as good. That doesn't work in law. So yeah. Most of the lots are identical, notes the attorney representing the developer, but at law, that argument doesn't work. My client believes she's trying to exploit the mistake in order to get money from my client and the other parties. Maybe she is, but it is your client's mistake, and she has the right to demand her property. She's filed a counterclaim against the developer, saying she's unaware of the unauthorized construction. A neighbor told a news station the empty house has also attracted squatters, which also makes things interesting. Now, This could obviously go a lot of ways in a lot of jurisdictions. But the sort of standard answer, and your mileage is going to vary a lot on this, obviously. But the standard answer is you have a right to insist your property be returned to its original condition. This is fundamentally a trespass, is what this basically is. This is a trespass against land. And trespass against land is strict liability in common law. For civil, not obviously criminal. But you don't have a right to cross someone else's land. So all you have to do is have intent to enter the land. You don't necessarily need to know that it's someone else's land. You just have to have the intent to enter it. And it's trespass. So if you cross someone else's land, even if you didn't know it's their land, that's trespass. Now, you're entitled to damages. Now, the damages might be $1, because if all I did was cross your land, then, you know, what's the harm to you? So yes, I'm liable, but there were no damages, so nominal damages. But the proper measure of damages, typically, is what does it take to restore the land to its prior condition? Again, if all I did was walk over your land, what does it take to restore the land? Nothing. You know, the land is exactly the same as it was before. It doesn't take anything, so $1. Nominal, right? But the standard answer is you have the right to demand the property returned. So you have the right to demand the house be removed and every bit of plumbing, foundation, everything be removed from the land. The land be restored back to its original condition. That's the standard answer, which might be a bit economically wasteful, but that's the standard answer. So they're going to go fight about that for a while in Hawaii, and we'll see what Hawaii says, but that's typically the right answer. Yeah. And now it's being squatted on, which I don't know how that impacts the analysis. It shouldn't. I don't know how that impacts the analysis. I don't know how squatters' rights work in such a situation. Sounds fun. Sounds like a bad law school exam. Sounds like a bad law school exam. It sounds like a bar exam, to be honest. It sounds like a bar exam question. Let me tell you about this piece of property named Blackacre, they say. I'm like, okay. Tell me about Blackacre. Well, it's like this. I'm like, okay, great. Also, it's neighbored by Greenacre and Blueacre. No. Please don't bring more colors into this. Why can't she keep the house and tell them to bugger off? Well, she's not entitled to the house. She's not entitled to that. That's not the available remedy. Right? Because she didn't pay for the house. It's not her thing. So they have the right, she has the right to demand to them, because the house itself is their property, is the short answer. It might be on her land. The land is her property, but the house is their property. So they have to remove the house from the land. She doesn't have a right to the thing because it's not her thing. That's not an available remedy. So, yeah. She didn't ask for the house. They gave it to her. No, they didn't. That's not what, well, yes, but it doesn't matter. Well, strictly speaking, no, they didn't give it to her. It was a mistake. That doesn't count. For something to be a gift, you have to intend it as a gift. So no, it doesn't count. They effectively misplaced it. They didn't give it to her because there wasn't an intent to make a gift. So it doesn't fall as a gift. So it's still their stuff. It just happens to be on their land. Good questions, though. Doesn't the house become a fixture to the land once it's built on the foundation? Well, for some purposes, MLS maybe, but there's always a distinction between the land and the house to some degree, because, you know, you can always separate, because you can separate the two, right? I mean, unless some zoning ordinance or otherwise provides otherwise, I mean, you might very well buy a piece of property with intention to destroy what's on the property. That's certainly been done, right? You buy a house, you buy a yard because you like the yard, and there's some structure on there right now and it's not salvageable or you don't want it anyway. So you buy the property with the structure on it with the intention of raising the structure. I mean, certainly you can do that, right? It's like, well, I want the land, not the thing that's on it. So, I mean, you can always separate them to some degree. So there's always a distinction to be made on some level. It's like a baseball that rolled onto the property. Kind of, sort of, yeah. Kind of, sort of, yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Sort of, yeah. Can the lawsuit be more than the house is worth? What if it sells her house building as being delayed? Yes, it can. It can be more than the cost because they have to restore everything back the way it is. So if she has been harmed in inability to perform her own construction, then that would be a cost too. That would have to be ameliorated. They have to return her. They basically have to return her back to her prior condition. So if she has been deprived of her rights to build, then that would be worth something. So yes, that's quite possible too. You've seen people buy houses for nominal amounts that don't include the land. Sure, you can have that kind of relationship, but that is also very clear from the nature of the relationship, and that's classically what McDonald's does. That's McDonald's. McDonald's owns the land. The franchisee owns the building, but McDonald's owns the land. It's very famous, right? So if the franchisee doesn't do what McDonald's wants, McDonald's says, okay, we're going to cancel your franchise, remove your building from our land. That's one of the ways that McDonald's maintains control over their franchisees, because they own the land. They don't own the building, but they own the land. And if they void the franchise agreement, then take your building off our land. So yeah, I mean that's what McDonald's does all the time. Yeah. Yeah. So sure, yeah, you can have and you could have land, you could have building on a lease that runs with the land for a certain period of time or whatever. So yeah, sure. You can have all kinds of arrangements like that. When the cost of removing the house cost them more? It might, but that's neither here nor there. Right? They can offer her anything she's willing to accept. The only thing that she can insist on, typically, is that they remove their property. McDonald's can make you McDonald's can make their franchisee move the building off their land, and she can make them move the building off their land. That's the only thing she can insist on. If the builder wishes to offer them something else, then that's on them. Which, maybe I don't know what the cost of restoring the land back to its initial condition is, but I'm sure it's quite expensive. So they might be willing to say, well, we'll sell you the house for whatever that cost is, because it's no skin to us. And she gets the house for much cheaper. But it's up to them. They can cut off their nose to spite their face. It's like, well, we're just going to remove the house and we both lose. So it depends. Everything else is negotiable. And it is possible sometimes to move a house. That can be done too under certain circumstances. So they could theoretically move the house instead of raising the house. So yeah, all they have to do is move the house. If they can do it, then great. It can be done sometimes. Maybe they can move the house. Maybe that's possible. Is she allowed to keep the house? Again, the only thing she can insist on is return the land back to its normal condition. That's the only thing she can insist on. That's the only power she has. Anything else is negotiable. So no, she doesn't have a right to keep it. It's not her thing. She has to return it. I don't understand why she can't keep the house because they don't get all the money back for demolishing after they build it. Yes, correct. The builder is out a shit ton of money. They're out all the money. They're out all the money for all the stuff that they built, and then they're out for all the money for everything it cost them to remove it. So the developer is out a shit ton of money. But that's what she can insist on. Remove your thing. If the thing gets destroyed in the process, that is not my problem. So it cost you everything. It cost you everything to build it in the first place, and cost you everything to restore the land back to the way it was. So it's a very, very expensive oopsies. Thank you, Julia, for becoming a member, or being a member for 18 months. We appreciate it. What have you missed? Not much. We're just discussing some property law stuff. We're having fun law with fun with uncivil law time. Which of my mods put an article about the history of strip clubs in Portland in my feed? Was that you, Kestrel? Did you put an article about the history of strip clubs in Portland into my feed? Sounds like something Kestrel would do. All right, Berkeley tried to ban natural gas, but that has fizzled out. It was Kestrel. She doesn't want to admit to it. It was Kestrel. Berkeley has banned tried to ban natural gas, but the ban has no longer gone into place as part of an agreement last week to settle a lawsuit from the California Restaurant Association. Berkeley agreed to immediately halt enforcement of its first-in-the-nation ban on installing natural gas pipeline into newly constructed buildings. Berkeley has also agreed to take the steps to repeal the ordinance. Every city and state in California that passed similar ordinance should follow their lead. Farma Foz Brown, Berkeley city attorney, confirmed the city has ceased enforcement of the ban, saying cities were uniquely responsible for protecting their residents from the climate change harms posed by burning natural gas. Berkeley will continue to be a leader on climate action, they said, for some reason. Fighting climate change has been a primary argument put forward by people such bans. Natural gas burned in homes accounts for 10% of planet warming pollution. I'm doubtful about that number. And states plan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045 have relied on phasing out natural gas amid 90% reduction in demand for natural gas. Gas ban supporters have also cited public health as a rationale. A 2023 study from Stanford found that cooking with gas stoves can expose people to roughly the same cancer risk as breathing secondhand cigar smoke. That sounds like some bullshit. Berkeley was the first U.S. city to approve a ban on gas hookups in most homes. More than 70 other counties and cities, including Los Angeles, have since followed suit and effectively banned new gas appliances. California has it out for the gas industry, I guess. In an April 2023 ruling, a federal appeals court sided with the Restaurant Association, ruling the city could not preempt federal statutes in attempting to regulate the piping that carries natural gas into the building as a way to regulate the appliances themselves. California's doing some bullshit again. California's doing some bullshit. Are you a stripper? Would you like to be a mod for Uncivil Law? Send in your demo video to Uncivil Law today. I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know what's happening. Sexy moderation. Sexy moderation. All moderators must perform strip teases while doing moderation actions. Oh, yeah. Okay. In homeowner associations gone wrong, the place of Beaverton, she said Beaver. Beaverton families face thousands of fines from the HOA board, but little recourse. Residents of Copper Mountain Estates HOA report thousands of fines and an HOA board that's made essentially impossible to be removed from power. A group of Beaverton homeowners facing thousands of dollars of fines from their neighborhood's HOA board tried to remove the board president from his position, only for the board to change the neighborhood's bylaws the very next day, making it essentially impossible to remove from power. Cute. An attorney representing the HOA board told KGW that the homeowners' actions don't represent the entire community, as some people have been pleased with the cleanup of the neighborhood, but the conflict highlights the delicate balance of power between neighborhoods and the associations that run them. Homeowners associations are mandatory neighborhood organizations that collect dues from homeowners to pay for things like landscaping and general maintenance. They set their own rules and punishment for violations, collecting dues and issuing fines, not too dissimilar from a local government. However, as a private agency, or private entity rather, HOAs lack the same accountability and oversight, which some residents are quickly finding out. About 33 families live within the Copper Mountain Estates in Beaverton, south of Aloha. Versi Lucia Campos gives me $10 to say, hold my beer. I will gladly hold your beer. Including Sam Sheketh and his wife, who have owned their suburban home since 2008. They recently began renting it out to retired members of the military and his family. For 15 years, they say they had no problems with the neighborhood HOA. Then last year, new neighbors took charge of the 3-person board. Right now, we're looking at $10,000 in fines last time I checked, and it's going up. It started in the garage. Shika's tenant liked to do woodworking there. In September, the HOA board sent Shika multiple violations and fines, up to $1,300 a week, saying the tenant was operating a woodworking business, that he couldn't fit 2 cars in the garage, and woodworking was proof of habitation in the garage. We said, this is not habitation, this is occasional. This is a woodworking hobby. We don't believe we're in any violation. Shika said he was also fined for a dead patch of grass, which he had covered with stone pavers after checking with the prior board. And then the HOA board issued fines for who was living in the neighborhood. KGW talked with multiple families who are being penalized for having older family members, like parents-in-law, living with them. The HOA board fined families $300 a week for using their home as multifamily dwellings. The board asked for specifics, names, cars, license plates, all personal details from every person in there. And you can imagine it's kind of humiliating, but we didn't want to get fined. For Shika, the violation seemed petty and personal. We felt targeted, as other families have felt as well. And certainly the tenant felt targeted. I felt everything we did wouldn't be satisfactory, and that's what proved true. On October the 17th, a group of frustrated homeowners sent the HOA board a letter requesting a special meeting. They say they wanted to remove the board's president, and per the HOA bylaws, they represent more than 25% of the outstanding vote to do so. The very next board day, the board president called a special meeting of his own. According to the board minutes from October 18th, Anderson and one other board member voted to change the bylaws, adopting an amendment that would change the percentage of owners who call special meeting of the owners to 50%, and changing the percentage of owners necessary to establish a quorum to 90%. Nice. Per the minutes, Anderson then rejected the homeowner's request for a special meeting for not complying with the bylaws. Sheikha told KGW this was because the homeowners had not physically signed the document calling for a special meeting, and by the time they could rectify that, the new bylaws were in place, making recall essentially impossible. When the homeowners found the threshold had been changed without notice, we were all shocked. In early March, KGW talked with the HOA president, Martin Anderson, on phone, requesting an interview so he could explain his perspective. Anderson explained the new board wanted to crack down on late dues and costs, such as paying too much for landscaping. He felt the neighborhood had gone downhill in recent years. However, Anderson did not agree to an on-camera interview that day and since has not responded to the media. A letter from the Cooper Mountain Estates HOA Board of Directors to the homeowners detailed some of the board's thinking. The board had fired the previous management company, adopted new management enforcement and fire standards, started investigating community maintenance obligations, requested homeowners to pay any late dues, and send photos of violations around the neighborhood to the board. Chris Tingy, an attorney representing the Cooper Mountain Estates HOA board, did talk with KGW about a week after the article was published. Tingy said the neighborhood rules were designed by developers years ago, and there's community and support for the action. The story at Cooper Mountain is one side of the story. It didn't tell the story of all the people that wanted to clean up the condition of the property. They have narrow roads, for example, and so the parking issue is we need to get cars off the street, and we need to get in the garage and driveway so that it's safe and habitable. In November, a few weeks after it changed the bylaws, it's amazing that he hasn't been shot yet, by the way, saying he wanted observed from the speak watching the truck of dismantling. The other violation, he said, was for the garage being used to perform repairs on an automobile. It's endless trying to chase this thing. It's really affected our quality of life. After this round of violations, they decided to move out, writing in a message that was later shared with the board. The harassment of the HOAs made us feel very uncomfortable and forced us to look for a new place to live. These claims are outrageous and discrimination is appalling. So yeah, try to sue each other and see what happens. So that's what's happening there, ma'am. The Census Bureau reports that 84% of new single-family homes belong to an HOA. So, exciting. An HOA is a homeowners association. It's basically a private government. Thank you for the compliment about the thumbnail. That was designed by Tony, who is a good mod and doesn't try to get me into trouble. Unlike some other moderators who do try to get me into trouble. Well, someone, Kestrel, someone put a story on my board that's entitled History of Strip Clubs in Portland, Kestrel. You want to make any confessions about that, Kestrel? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. All right. And what the hell is going on in Maryland news? Three Maryland middle schoolers have been charged with a hate crime after display of swastikas. Three middle schoolers from Southern Maryland have been charged with hate crimes after they displayed swastikas, performed Nazi salutes, and made derogatory remarks about a classmate's religion, according to county prosecutors. Officials with the Calvert County State's Attorney's Office said the harassment began in December, and students refused to stop despite repeated requests. The victim only reported the behavior to the Maryland State Police, which investigated and filed charges. The defendants, all of whom are 13, are students at the Plum Point Middle School in Calvert County. Officials say the school charges will be forwarded to the Maryland Department of Justice Services for appropriate action. Prosecutors announced the charges in a news release last week, but did not elaborate on the alleged derogatory remarks. Calvert County Public Schools did not immediately respond to an email requesting comment. Calvert County Public Schools especially denounces racism, bullying, discrimination, white supremacy, hate, and racial inequality in any form. So, I don't know what's going on in Maryland, but apparently we got some people with the Nazis and swastikas and stuff apparently harassing some schoolmates or something, so something's fucked up. Yes, we repealed the First Amendment, Hedinger. Good question. Let's see if there's anything else I want to cover today. I think it's enough for now. I think it's time for a cocktail and chill with Uncivil for a little while. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. It's time for a margarita. We'll have a margarita and we'll chill together. Excuse me, I'm going to make a margarita. All right, let's go. Not bad. Yeah, I really am enjoying the new place. I've been in really good spirits lately. I got the medication issue resolved for the moment. I got the medication this morning. But we have a new problem, apparently. Because my doctor is more than 100 miles away from where I am now, and apparently Sam's Club has a policy that they're not supposed to fill a prescription if the doctor is more than 100 miles away from the location of the pickup, and my doctor is still in Austin. So, yeah. So I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do now. They gave it to me this time as a courtesy, they said. And now I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. And then, like, a whole nother set of issues. Do I have a new gym I like? I've been exercising with Nate the lawyer. Oh, I left my fridge open, excuse me. All right. I've been exercising with Nate the lawyer every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning for the last 2 weeks. So we're going again tomorrow morning. I'm very excited about it. Can I use an online pharmacy? I don't know. I'll ask him. I'll ask him. I don't know if I can do that. You've gotten Control RX filled in Florida with your doctor in West Virginia? I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't know that those scripts could cross state lines. CVS, we called CVS. We called 27 pharmacies during our last adventure, you and I together. Called 27 pharmacies. We called HEB. We called CVS. We called Walgreens. We called a bunch of independent pharmacies. We finally found one at Sam's Club that had medication that I needed. 27 pharmacies we called. 27. To find the medication I needed. Because it's an ADHD medication and it's hard to find. So, yeah. So I don't know what I'm going to do next month. Oh, and then this is a nice little kick in the teeth. You like this one? Here's this one. I didn't even know this was possible. I didn't know this was possible, but apparently it is. When I bought my health insurance on the health market exchange, Obamacare, as it were, at the start of the year, I had spent like 4 months trying to find the doctor who eventually would prescribe me the medication I needed, which is a whole other set of problems, by the way, because the DEA is squeezing everybody. So finding a doctor to actually prescribe me the drugs took like 4 months or 5 months. When I finally did find the doctor who would do it for me, initially they were outside my plan. So I paid $230 for a virtual doctor's visit, okay? Because I wasn't covered by insurance, because they were inside my network. $230 for a 15-minute video conversation. It gets more infuriating, don't worry. We're going to continue on. So when I picked my plan for the new year, because I had such trouble finding the doctor in the first place, I made a point of selecting a plan that would cover that doctor and that medication. Now you can do that. You can, when you go onto the health exchange, it allows you to filter the plans, and you can filter by the doctors it covers and the medication it covers. So you can filter by both. And I did. And it gave me a list of options. And one of them, which is the option I picked, was actually cheaper than the option I was on, which I thought was great, right? Because it's like cheaper than the option I'm on. And also it had some nice benefits because the option I was on had co-pays for everything. Whereas the new plan just had a fixed price for prescriptions. So instead of it being like 50% of the price, it would just be a flat $25 or flat $50 or whatever it was for prescriptions. And I thought, well, this is better, right? Okay. So my doctor obviously was in Austin because that's, you know, where I live. So my doctor was in Austin, and so I picked a health plan, you know, for my doctor that I had and for the drug I had. And I thought to myself, you know, well, when I move to Houston, you know, this shouldn't be a problem. I'll just find a new doctor that's within my plan. There are no doctors within my plan in Houston. As it turns out, and I didn't know this is possible, but apparently it is, the health insurance plan I'm on only has doctors and hospitals in Austin. I know. I was surprised too. They only have doctors and hospitals in Austin. Just Austin. Nowhere else. Just Austin. They're a health insurance company for one goddamn city. The city of Austin. It's a private plan, but it just covers Austin. And so, like, I moved to Houston and, like, there are no doctors or hospitals because, well, I'm not in Austin. Now. Okay, now. No, it does get better. It gets better. Okay, it gets better. Okay, the change of address does qualify me to change my plan. So normally you can only change plan during open season, but there are certain conditions that you can change your plan if you move. Well, moving is one of them. So I'm eligible to go back on the exchange and find a new plan. Huzzah. Huzzah, right? So I go and do what I did before, right? I go onto the exchange and I say, okay, I would like a plan that covers the doctor I already have and covers the medication I already have. The cheapest option is $200 more a month than I'm already spending. It goes from $350 a month to $550 a month. So my original plan was, you know what? I'm just not going to change plans. They can't make me. I'll just stick with my doctor. And this isn't a problem, right? Because I'm still in Texas, right? It's a Texas doctor with a Texas prescription. I'm still in Texas. So this won't be a problem, right? I mean, I don't need to go see my doctor in person. We can have virtual visits. It'll be fine. I don't need to go see him in person. And I'll just keep my health plan and he can continue caring for me for the rest of the year and I'll be fine. And then I go to Sam's Club and they're like, we won't fill any prescription that's more than 100 miles away. And I'm like, but what do you care? It's still in Texas. It's like, yeah, but it's just our policy. Yeah. Yeah. So the drama continues. Also, I don't know if I should say this publicly or not. I don't know if I should say that publicly. There's yet another complication. Yeah, I probably shouldn't. Probably shouldn't mention it. There's yet another complication. Yeah. I don't know if I can say it another way. I don't know if there's any way for me to say it. Yeah. So, yeah. Isn't there a Sam's Club in College Station? I'm sure there might be. I don't, yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, your has forever, yeah. So, yeah. So there's another complication. So I just got my medication today. I just picked it up today for the refill. Picked it up today. Picking up the refill itself was a whole thing, by the way. For somehow, I don't know what happened exactly, but I had not been paying my premiums on my health plan. I don't know how, but apparently I hadn't been. And so I went to pick up the medication. They're like US $250. I'm like, that's the wrong number. That doesn't make sense. That's the wrong number. It's like, yeah. So after like talking to my insurance company and talking to my pharmacy provider for quite a while, it turns out that if you're delinquent on your health plan, they only pay they pay at a different rate. So they'll still pay, but they'll pay at a different rate because you're delinquent. I'm not sure why they don't pay at all if you're delinquent, but I don't care. I mean, I'm just telling you, okay, right? So like the price for the drug is about $500 something for generic. Street price. Right. The street price for the drug is $500 something. So it's like, okay, we'll pay half because you're delinquent. It's like, but I don't want to. So I went to the pharmacy and like, okay, so you're delinquent. So I paid off my health insurance in full. And I went back the next day because they said it was everything was good. Nope, everything was not good. Because the health insurance company had to send the information to the pharmacy provider, and the pharmacy provider went it through their like eligibility office, and that apparently took 2 hours to sync up or some bullshit. So I went home and I went back today for a third time to get the same medication. And fortunately now I have medication in hand. So I got medication for a month. So in the next month I guess I have to find a new doctor. I have to find a new doctor in a new insurance plan who will prescribe me the medications that it took me 5 months to find the current doctor who would prescribe it for me for. There is no deductible on this plan. There's no deductible. Unlike my old plan. So last year I had a plan where there was a deductible, but there is a deductible, but it doesn't apply to medication. There's a fixed price for medication. So it cost me $25 instead of $200 something. So the price to me today was $25. I haven't met my deductible, but it's a fixed price for medication on this particular insurance, which is one of the reasons I picked it in the first place, because last time I didn't pick one where it was fixed and it was annoying as shit. So I picked one where it had a fixed price for drugs. So it was $25 instead of $500 something. So that was nice. Yeah, and then I'll do all this, and then next month Sam's Club won't have the medication. Yeah. So there are problems. I did talk to the pharmacy manager at the Sam's Club. I talked directly to him today. I talked to the pharmacy manager, and he says, you got to understand it from our point of view. It's like, according to our system, it's throwing every red flag in the world at me. And I explained to him what the complication was. I explained to him the problem. And it's quite possible he's never heard this before, ever. And so, like, I don't know if he thought I was telling him the truth or not. Because, like, I'm telling him something, it's quite possible he's never heard before. And, but he's like, well, you got to look at it from our point of view, because, you know, according to your address, you live in Austin. And it's like, so why are you coming this far away? You bypassed all these different pharmacies. So what's that all about? Why'd you bypass 300 different pharmacies to come to? I did point out to him that, like, I had to call 27 different pharmacies to find it in the first place. So there was that. But, yeah. I mean, as regulated as it is, right? Because it's an electronic script and it goes through the governmental system and everything else. It's like, you know. Yeah, the address. Yeah, the address. The address is the problem, or at least partially is the problem. Apparently, the doctor has to be within 100 miles, and I have to be within 50 miles. I'm not sure why that's different, but apparently it is. I don't know. But yeah, apparently I have to live within 50 miles of the store, which sounds pretty reasonable normally. So, challenges. The medication is Vyvanse. It's generic Vyvanse, lisdexamfetamine. It's an ADHD drug, is what it's typically prescribed for. It's on-label use, is ADHD and binge eating disorder, which is a nice bonus for me because I can use it for the binge eating disorder too, so I'll take it. I'm using it for depression. It was originally prescribed for me for depression, which is a whole interesting thing too, by the way, when I was trying to find a doctor. Because most doctors I called like couldn't contemplate that it wasn't being prescribed for ADHD. I actually called one doctor and was like, oh, I'm taking this for depression. And then by the end, they're like, well, we need to have proof that you need it. It's like by what? By the tests. I'm like, I don't have any tests. Well, you need to log into ADD, blah, blah, .com. I'm like, let me stop you right there. I'm not taking it for ADD. I'm taking it for depression. It's off label. And she had no idea what to fucking do with that information. The person I spoke to and had no fucking clue to do with that information. It's like, well, maybe you can come in and talk to our providers and maybe blah, 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 blah. And yeah, like, they had no fucking clue what to do with that information. Is it Schedule 2? Yes, it's Schedule 2. Along with Adderall and most of the ADHD drugs. Yes, it's Schedule 2. Which doesn't help. But yeah. Yeah, and you can't get paper scripts in Texas either. There are no paper scripts, I asked. It's all electronic. Which has also been an interesting thing, because also the scripts can't be transferred from pharmacy to pharmacy. Because it's Schedule 2. So if my doctor sends it to one pharmacy, and I find it at another pharmacy, they can't transfer the script. I have to call my doctor, cancel the script, and have it sent to the new pharmacy. I don't know, man. I don't know. Eh, Lord. I tried Adderall once, and I hated it. I absolutely hated Adderall. Hated it. And I don't think I've ever tried any other ADHD medication other than Vyvanse. But Adderall for me was like nothing but side effects. It just made me jittery and anxious, and it sucked. Adderall for me sucked balls. But Vyvanse is great. It's as close to a miracle drug as I've ever had in my life. It's such a great drug. It's such a wonderful drug. It has done such wonders for me and my depression, and making me like not want to literally slit my wrists all the time, which is a plus, I think. It has been an incredible drug. It hasn't made the problem disappear. It hasn't made the problem go away. It is not a cure-all, but it helps a shit ton. And I love it in terms of its drug. It's like, and it has no side effects. It has really no side effects. And it's not addictive. It's not addictive. I just would really prefer to be on it, because if I'm not on it, then, you know, the slitting the wrist thing. So, plan for a new doc? I don't know. I mean, I literally got the prescription filled this morning. So, as of me talking to you right now, I have no plan. I'll get back to you. I don't know that I have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD. I never said that I had ADHD. I never said that ever, that I had ADHD. So they can't prescribe it for ADHD because I have never been diagnosed with ADHD. So there's that. I just said the drug was on label for ADHD. That's all I ever said, was the drug was on label for that. Yeah. Most people don't try Adderall for anything else. Yeah, in my case, it was prescribed for depression. because I tried a lot of different other medications. And this is going back 10 years or something. But one of my doctors was like, well, give Adderall a try and see if that works. So it didn't work. So I am a lot happier today. I'm in a very good mood today. I'm in an exceptionally good mood today. Life is good. Ever give the person over the counter info they didn't need? Well, I'm not sure I did that. I think I gave the person over the counter the information they needed. I've used ketamine. I've never used it as an IV. I tried intramuscular ketamine a couple times. I found intramuscular ketamine effective, but also very short-lived. It was fine for, you know, the half hour or 45 minutes or whatever it was that it was effective, but it has no, the ketamine had no long-term impact for me. I think it's a fantastic drug, and I think someone should definitely try it, and I definitely recommend it to other people. And if someone asks me if they should try ketamine, I say, sure, give it a shot. It might very well do things, and it might well do wonders for you. I've heard great things for a lot of people. For a lot of people, ketamine's been a wonder drug. So I have nothing negative to say against ketamine. It just was very short-lived for me, as opposed to Vyvanse, which basically doesn't have that problem. Vyvanse just works perfectly. It works perfectly all the time, continuously. It works great. So, I mean, it's an art. It's an art as much as a science, right? Trying to find the right combination of drugs that works for you. And recently, I dropped Lexapro because I was on a 3-drug cocktail. I was on Vyvanse plus Wellbutrin plus Lexapro. And my mother, who I love deeply, commented that she thought that I was too glassy, that I was too numb and not expressive enough. He thought the combination was too strong, which I appreciate because sometimes you can't see these things in yourself. So I stopped using the Lexapro, contrary to my doctor's advice, incidentally. I asked my doctor, hey, should I just take it? And he's like, I wouldn't recommend you just stop taking it. I stopped taking it. Just stopped taking it. And I had some side effects for a couple days. After it wore off, I had some headaches. So for the first couple days, it was fine. And then for about a week, I had some headaches, and then it was fine. So I just went cold turkey. I just stopped using it. It was fine. So now I'm just on Wellbutrin and Vyvanse at the moment. 300 XL Wellbutrin, and at the moment 50 milligram Vyvanse. As we heard on the call, I was asking for either 40 or 50 milligram because I've been on 30 milligram and that's not enough. And 40 milligram was enough. And I was like, I wonder if 50 would be even better, right? So we had my doctor didn't initially want to prescribe 50. It's like, well, the 40 is working really great. I don't want to prescribe 50. I was like, okay. Well, I called around. This is the last time we did calls. This is like a month ago when we did calls. Like I called around to like however many it was, 17 different pharmacies that time. And none of them had 40, but one of them had 50. So I said to my doctor, it's like, well, this pharmacy has 50. It's like, well, I'll prescribe it. So he did, and I took 50 for a month. And I didn't really find a lot of difference between the delta from 40 to 50. I didn't really find a lot of side effects either, but I didn't really find a lot of benefit. So there was like basically no change between 40 and 50. Maybe a little bit more side effect, but nothing to write home about. So I was like, okay, well, I can go back down to 40. 40's fine. So I don't care anymore because 40 or 50 is equally good. Right, there's no delta between them, from my point of view. And less drugs are better, so, all things being equal, I'll be happy to go back to 40. But, once again, the dice were such that the 50 was what was available. Of the 27 pharmacies we called, because we were on the line, we did it together as a stream. We called 27 different pharmacies this time. And the 27th pharmacy had 50, so we took it. So that's where we're at. Yeah, best to slowly decrease. I understand, but that ship has sailed now, so let's move on. It might be best to slowly decrease, but I did not do that. I stopped taking Lexapro. I stopped taking it a month ago, and I just stopped. So that's what I did. Deal with that reality, and let's move on. I didn't find going off the drug particularly problematic. As I said, like the first couple days I went off it, I didn't really have any side effects. And then like day 3 or something, I started having headaches. But I just took aspirin for like a week and it went away. It wasn't like, it wasn't like an addictive thing where, you stop taking, you're jonesing for it. I wasn't jonesing for it. I wasn't like, I really need my hit. I wasn't having any of that problem. I was just like, my brain is a little unhappy because it's not getting the thing it used to get. But after a week, my brain reset itself and it was fine. So it worked out. How do I feel different now that I'm not taking it? I'd say I'm less glassy. I'm more emotionally responsive. I'm less dead. I'm less dead is the best way to put it. I'm less emotionally muffled. I'm more emotionally expressive. I'm more able to smile. I'm more able to have happiness. I'm more able to have emotional expression. It wasn't bothering me as much, by the way, personally, but my mom, who again I love and I trust, said that she saw the change. She said that it was a noticeable change, that the Kurt she knew and loved was kind of not there. And I was like, I can't see it, but she can see it. I'll take her word for it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll cut something out. So I cut out the Lexapro. I should have tapered again. That ship has sailed. The taper ship has sailed. Choo choo, choo choo. The taper trade is gone. So let's move on. What I should have done and what I did. Well, okay. I wasn't providing recommendations to anyone. I was just describing. And like, I can go off the Vyvanse. I can do it. I know it's not addictive. Because I've been off the meds before. And it's not been a problem other than the meds are helpful in and of themselves. So like, it's not an addictive problem. I've never had an addiction problem with drugs, which I guess, good to be me. I remember once, like, I had this surgery and my doctor prescribed me something. I think it was opiates. I don't remember exactly for the pain. But I think it might have been an opiate. And I remember, like, taking one dosage of it and it just made me sick. And then I just threw out the bottle and I'm like, well, I'm just going back to Tylenol. So, that's just the way it goes sometimes, right? Some people, I thought it was pretty hilarious because, it's like, here's this drug that so many people clamor for because it gets them high and they love it. It makes them super happy. I take one drug of it, it just makes me sick. It didn't make me feel better. It just made me feel worse. I'm like, well, Tylenol sounds pretty good. Let's just take Tylenol. So, I've never had an addiction problem when it comes to drugs, which I suppose is really good. Or alcohol, for that matter. I've never had an addiction problem with alcohol. I was using alcohol as a medication, but I've never had problems like going off of it and not drinking it. I've actually been drinking a lot less, all things considered. I'm not even sure when the last time I had a drink other than right now was, to be honest, because I don't drink that much anymore, which I suppose is just great. So, yeah. Does the Vyvanse keep you awake or cause insomnia? Well, I mean, it is a stimulant, so a little bit, but I take it first thing in the morning, so by the time I'm ready for bed, its half-life is such that I can get back to bed. What flavor for margarita? Just traditional lime right now. Yeah. The only other drug I've ever been on that was like as good as Vyvanse was Provigil, which was the drug that the movie and TV show Limitless was based off of. Was Provigil. I have to say it didn't have those quite those effects. Provigil is a fine drug. I found Vyvanse to be a bit more effective. I suppose next time, if I really have trouble finding it, I could ask my doctor to prescribe me Provigil. But all things being equal, I'd like to stay on Provigil, and I don't want to bounce back and forth. That doesn't sound good. I don't want to bounce back and forth based on availability. So... do I take anything to help me sleep? Yes, I take, what do I take to help me sleep? I take, Trazodone. I take Trazodone to help me sleep. Usually 100 milligram, sometimes 50. I take Trazodone to help me sleep. It works great, incidentally. What else can we talk about? The new pad is working out great. I'm really happy here in Houston. I was trying to find a new improv group. They just started, so I have to wait a little while. I'm a nurse practitioner. Abrupt deconstructions can be serious. Please respect some opinions. Well, I'll make you a deal. I'll respect your opinion if you respect mine. How about that? Yeah, 50 milligrams is what you prescribe for a 20, 30 pound dog. Yeah, like, it's not that much. It's not that much, so. Yeah, I've been doing improv a lot of times. I like improv. I had 2 sleep studies. That's why I got the CPAP. Apparently, I stopped breathing like 300 times in an evening. And apparently, my doctor thought my not breathing 300 times in a night was bad. So I use a, have I ever tried smoking a joint? No, it's illegal. And I'm not even kidding. I know it might be a weird personality quirk of mine, but it's been said that the fact that it's illegal doesn't stop anybody, but it stops me. I might be the only one, but it's me. I have been very legalistic in my life. I didn't even drink till I was 21, except we're allowed by law. And I was anal about this stuff even when I was 12. So I never drank before I was 21 unless I was overseas or unless my parents gave it to me in my house, which was legal under South Carolina law because I checked at 12. Right? And I never drank illegally. I went out for my 21st birthday and drank, and I've been drinking ever since, but I never drank illegally. And I might be the only one, but I've never smoked weed because it's illegal. So, I mean, I might be the only one, but that's me. So I've never taken an illegal drug. Yeah. Okay. Is it still illegal to smoke in states where it's recreationally illegal? Depends on your frame of reference, but yes. So you're talking about the difference between state level authority and federal level authority, but yes, it is federally illegal. So everywhere in the United States, it's a violation of federal law to use marijuana. In some states, it's not, but it's illegal federally everywhere because it's a Schedule 1 drug for reasons that defy all understanding. But it is. So, yeah, there's strictly speaking no place in the United States where it's legal to smoke marijuana. So it depends on how you view such things. But yeah, it's a very complicated situation. You dated a drug dealer? Seems like an unsavory character to me. Maybe you just like bad boys, though, I guess. Maybe you like unsavory characters. But, you know, okay, I guess. How can states make something legal that's illegal federally? Well, they can make it legal as a matter of state law because we live in a federalist system. The federal government can't force the states to enforce federal law. It's anti-commandeering doctrine. So the state is master of its own law, just like the federal government is. The state is master of its own law. So a state is not required to have any law as far as it's concerned, and it can tell its police not to enforce any law or enforce any law that it pleases. So that's how. They can't change the federal law. They can't stop the feds from enforcing the federal law. But they can choose not to enforce the law themselves because, well, they're a separate sovereign. That's how. Biden's thinking about it. Yes, I saw. I hope they do it soon. HHS did send its formal suggestion to the DEA a couple months ago at this point, I think, to reschedule it as Schedule 3, I think. Yeah. To reschedule it as Schedule 3. So the DEA has that from HHS as a formal recommendation to reschedule. So we'll see. A degree in IT never pirated diagnostic software? Well, strictly speaking, piracy is a civil violation. But not worth arguing the finer points right now. I mean, strictly technically, there is criminal copyright, but like I can't remember the last time that was ever brought by anybody. So. Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to explain. It is complicated. The United States is a federalist system. It's complicated. The states are sovereign and the federal government is sovereign. So you have this complication. It's complicated, is the short answer. So you have these separate sovereigns, right? So a sovereign can't impose on another sovereign. So it gets complicated. But in the strictest sense, the federal government can't, strictly speaking, impose on the states because they can't make the states do things with respect to like its own state level apparatuses. They can't force the states to use state level power to affect federal law. So it's complicated, but yeah. Yeah. The 14th Amendment provides that you're a citizen of the United States and the state in which you reside, so it is completely correct legally to say I'm a citizen of Texas. 14th Amendment says I am. It's right there. So I'm a citizen of the United States and a citizen of Texas at the same time. Dual citizenship. How exciting. Yeah. No, it's complicated. It's hard to understand. It's hard to understand. I think one of the easier ways to try to explain it is by comparison. So you can think of it kind of like, I think comparison to the EU helps a little bit because they're kind of similar in some ways, right? In both situations, you have sovereign entities. In the case of the EU, you have France and Germany and Italy, right? Those are sovereign entities. And they have given power to a centralized authority, in this case, the EU. And by comparison, in the United States, you have sovereign entities like New York, Texas, California, have given power to a central entity, this case, the United States federal government. So what makes the difference is sort of how much power is given, I suppose. Because no one really thinks of the EU as sovereign. No one really considers the EU sovereign in that way. Although it's closer than some other relationships. So there's somewhere on the continuum where you sort of cross the threshold, right? And so you still think of Italy, Germany, and France as independent countries. But people don't think of Texas, California, and New York as independent countries. And sort of the difference is how much power they've given the centralized authority. And that's the easiest way I can think to explain it. And also interesting in United States history, also for the same reason, because there was a linguistic shift for a lot of the same reason, especially before the 14th Amendment. If you go back in early American history, they used to say the United States are. The United States are. But now they say the United States is. Right? So you sort of see that linguistic shift of the idea of how much power the central power has. But it's not like, I mean, I don't know enough about international law to draw a comparison. But there are places in the world that subdivide their country into subparts. Like Swiss has its cantons, and Germany has its regions. And so what makes one sovereign or not others is sort of a matter of degree. It's very complicated. States is plural. Depends how you conceive of it. Yeah, states are plural. Depends how you conceive of it. It's sort of, it begs the question a little bit. Because it could be a collective noun, in which case it's singular. So, yeah, it depends how you conceive of it. And this fight, incidentally, in the United States is a big part of the national identity of the United States. The sort of fight between state level power and federal level power, because in the beginning, there was nothing but the state of Virginia, the state of New York, the state of Georgia. In the beginning, there was nothing but the state. And then we tried the whole Articles of Confederation thing for a while, and that kind of blew up in everyone's face. And then they tried to move to a system of even a more centralized government. But even in our current system, the federal government is one of limited and enumerated powers. So it's one of, the easiest way to think of it conceptually is that the United States federal government deals internationally and the states deal domestically, which is mostly true. It's complicated. It's complicated. Everything's complicated. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. But yeah, the states still have still have massive power, and depending on who you ask, have more power. Um, it's a very interesting thing. Did I see Don Lemon and Elon Musk interview? I saw parts of it. It's also it's also just a genius system that we have got in one way or another, whether it's accidentally or not, because you have both vertical and horizontal separation of power, which is really good in trying to prevent tyranny. Because you split power horizontally as you split it between the legislative, judicial, and executive branches, which incidentally, like different governments don't split it that way. Because, for example, in the parliamentary system, there really is no executive branch to speak of. It's just the legislature. There's the legislature is the executive branch, right? There's really no distinction. The Prime Minister of the UK is a member of Parliament, along with their ministers. So there's no distinction really between the legislative and executive branches, in a lot of senses. In the United States, we split the power between the executive and legislative, and then we have a full-throated judicial, which also can't be said for a lot of countries in the world, incidentally. Even free countries, their judicial branch is a lot more limited than ours. So we split it horizontally between the executive, legislative, and judicial, and then we split it vertically between the states and federal government, which is just power checking power, and makes it more difficult for tyranny, which is good. You don't understand the heredity part? You don't really have to, because it doesn't really count. The House of Lords, it doesn't really count. You know, all they can really do is send things back to the House of Commons. They don't really have any power. It's mostly honorific. Like the Senate in most countries is honorific. The Senate in Italy is honorific by comparison. You know, so like the second chamber is honorific in a lot of chambers. Canada system, it's mostly honorific. Like all the power belongs in the House of Commons, whereas we actually have a functional Senate, not honorific. So we have bicameralism. That's pretty cool. You don't get what they do. As far as I can tell, the House of Lords at best sends a note back to the House of Commons to like, would you like to give it a second look? But the House of Commons can force it. So they don't really have any power at the end of the day. But I'm not an expert, but that's how I understand it. You know, the House of Lords at best can be like, are you sure? But if the House of Commons really wants to, they can force it. What is the House of Lords in the UK system? Well, as the name sort of implies, the House of Lords is a hereditary group that gets its power from ancestry. It's a throwback to the idea of lords as power bases for the king, which the UK still technically has, as I checked last. The House of Lords is a group of the lords of the realm who gain their power from heredity, as opposed to the House of Commons that's elected. But they don't have any real power, so it doesn't matter. Although they get to wear fancy clothing. That's kind of cool. UK law system is quite different. It depends a little bit about how you mean. if this system is different. Their system of government is a lot different than ours. They have a parliamentary system of government. We have a presidential system of government. So that's a pretty big difference. Also, their head of state and their head of government are different people, where ours is not. And their Supreme Court is comparatively less powerful than ours, although they're trying to get a little bit more power these days. It wasn't that long ago that they made the Supreme Court independent of the House of Lords. It wasn't that long ago. So they're trying to get a more powerful Supreme Court, but they're still a long way from that. But yeah, I mean, the U.S. and the U.K. share a legal history. Our law is common law, which is the U.K.'s law. So in a lot of ways, it's very similar because we share a common foundational history. But there are pretty significant differences. They don't have trial by jury in the vast majority of cases. Their Supreme Court is comparatively much less powerful than ours. Their House of Commons is the executive branch, so the legislative and executive branch. Basically, it's a unicameral executive and legislative branch all rolled up into one. So, I mean, there's a lot of functional differences between the UK and the US. Our laws are in the broadest sense comparable, just like the US is, just like any Commonwealth country would be, because the United States has derived its law from the UK. So, although it's obviously pushing the boundaries a lot, I can cheat a little bit if I read a legal decision from like any Commonwealth country. Because although there are pretty massive differences, there's enough common in our law that I can usually make it work. Now, I'm not an expert. Like, you wouldn't want me going litigating in New Zealand, right? But if you put a New Zealand decision in front of my face, I'd be able to understand it because on a very root level, we speak the same fundamental language. So I can cheat a little bit with Commonwealth decisions. So it depends on your frame of reference. Does the royal family have legal power? Depends on... Technically, yes. Practically, probably not. Technically, yes. Technically, the king is the head of state. Technically, all the military swears allegiance to the king. The king is the commander-in-chief of the UK military, which technically answers to him. Technically, the king can veto legislation. So, yeah, technically, yes, but they never do. So, it doesn't matter. Technically, the UK king can dissolve parliament or force parliament back into session. So, yes, the king theoretically has lots of powers. Technically. When I want to wear a wig, not my favorite choice. Lords from being ancestral land ownership? Yeah, you got it. That's it. It's like a formality that isn't used? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. What if a royal family member did exercise all those powers? Well, I'd ask Cromwell. Yeah. What if a king did exercise all those powers? I'd ask Cromwell, and we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, the last time a king tried to do that, they beheaded him. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Yeah, Lord. So it's an interesting thing. It's like one of those. It's basically a constitutional. It would be a constitutional crisis. Is the short answer. it'd be a constitutional crisis. If the king just starts vetoing legislation for the hell of it, it would be a constitutional crisis. It would be roughly equivalent to like the United States president arresting, I don't know, members of the Supreme Court or something. It's like, yeah, it's a constitutional crisis. So, yeah, no one wants to find out. No. It would plunge the United Kingdom into probably a bit of anarchy. And I want to be anarchy. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm tired. I've had fun. I've had my drink, and it's time for bed so I can get up and do the gym in the morning. Yeah. We had fun. I hope you had fun. I had a good time. I've been Uncivil Law. Till later, my friends. I hope all's well. Cheers, my friends, for now, and goodbye.